It's time for my favorite costuming task, planning. Hey everybody! Today I'm sitting down and planning out costumes for a trip that I'm taking in September, which is 7 months from when I'm filming this video. This may seem like a really long way into the future, but this is a pretty complex trip, and it's going to require me to make quite a few things and bring quite a few things, so I want to go ahead and think about it now so I'm setting myself up for success in the future and not panic sewing 2 days before I leave, or at the actual event itself, which is far worse. Not that I've ever done anything like that, of course. If you watched some of my earlier videos, like the making of my Edwardian white sands dress, you probably know that myself and a group of my friends have a plan to go to Prince Edward Island and spend a week in Edwardian clothing inspired by our love of Anne of Green Gables. 10-year-old Taylor is really excited about this trip, and also 39-year-old Taylor is very excited about this trip. We had originally planned to go in 2020. Obviously that did not happen, so we're hoping that this year, fingers crossed, everything will go smoothly and we can go. So we have technically been planning this trip since 2019, which means not only have I had a lot of time to think about it, I've also had the opportunity to sew a lot of Edwardian clothing in the interim, so I actually do have a pretty decent stash to pull from. But today I want to sit down and really take the time to look at what else I might need and make out a sewing plan for the next several months in the future. We're spending a week in Prince Edward Island, and my goal is to be able to dress in early 19th century practically the entire time that we're there. So it means I'm going to need a lot of stuff. We've rented a house, which means we'll be spending the entire time there sort of isolated by ourselves. And we have a few special events planned, but for the most part, we're pretty flexible and are just going to kind of hang out and do what we want. So there's a lot of opportunity to make whatever I want, which is both great, but also kind of paralyzing because the choices are so endless. To get a better handle of what I actually need realistically, I like to write up a schedule of what days we'll be there and any special events that we have planned, and then start thinking about what I would like to wear on what days. I usually like to break my days into mornings and evenings with the idea that I'll probably wear 2 costumes each day, but that's kind of flexible. It's always better to have more costumes than you need than to realize you want to dress up and not have something new to wear. So I sort of like to over-plan with the knowledge that I'll probably ditch 1 or 2 of these if needed. So I have a general idea of what we're doing what days, and that's flexible, but at least I know we're going to do these things on some of these days. And on the days where we don't have anything planned, I'm just kind of trying to think about what I would like to wear. So once I know what it is we're doing, I start plugging in my ideas for what I'd like to wear that day. Like I know we're going to do a white sands picnic one day, and I'm going to wear my fluffy white dress. And I know one day we'll do cards at home, so I kind of want some sort of really beautiful evening robe loungewear to wear. So I'm just sort of thinking about what my vision is in my head when I close my eyes and dream about this. What do I see myself wearing in these various times? It's very imaginative, and I think that's why I like this so much, because it's just all in my head, and I don't actually have to sew anything yet. I just get to sort of close my eyes and imagine what I'll be wearing in these beautiful locations. I get my inspiration for what I want to make all over the place. I've been keeping a big Pinterest board for this trip that's broken down into lots of different sections, and every time I see something I like, I just pin it. Now I can go back and see what really inspires me for this trip. I also like to occasionally browse through various books to see what might strike my fancy. Narrowing down what I want and what I actually have time for is one of the hardest parts of all of this. It's really easy to let your confidence run a little wild when you're planning for one of these trips, and I'm not always really realistic about reining in what I think I can manage. So I'm gonna try really hard this time. All right, so now I have an idea of what it is I want to wear while I'm there. Now, none of this is set in stone, and I absolutely reserve the right to change my mind about anything and everything until the moment I am putting on the costume. So this is a guideline, but it's not something that I'm married to, and I am 100% sure that what I eventually wear will be very different from what we have on this list. But I need somewhere to start with so I don't just completely lose it and be paralyzed by indecision and end up doing nothing. So the next thing to do is to go to my costume wardrobe and see what I have already that's gonna fit into these things. So let's head over to costume storage. One thing I really love about this period is that it's lots of separates, like skirts and shirts, so it's really easy to mix and match stuff. And I assume you'll probably be seeing some of these things maybe more than once as I kind of pair them with different pieces, which is really nice, and it makes for a far more flexible wardrobe. We're going in early September, so I know a few of these things just won't be worn, including some things I really love, like my new red skirt. It's beautiful, but it's just so hot that there's just no reason I'm gonna need it. So that's gonna not make it. I also have this little capelet and skirt combo, which is made of wool, and it's not a particularly hot wool, so I probably could wear it, but it just feels very wintry to me, and I really want to sort of lean into a summertime beachy look, so this one will stay home. And then I have my really fun cycling jacket and outfit, which I love. It's hilarious and weird and super cute, but it just doesn't feel right for this trip, so I probably won't make that. This is like the first shirt that I ever made, and I don't love it. It has some issues with it that actually probably are fixable, but I think I'd rather spend my time making a new one. So this is sort of gonna go in the maybe if I'm desperate and don't finish things outfit, but for the most part is going to stay home. You I love. You're perfect. I'm also sort of over this skirt, which is fine. I don't hate it, but I'm just sort of bored with it. So this will be another, like, if I get desperate sort of thing. It's a lovely lightweight wool, so it actually probably would be pretty great there, but you know, sometimes I just want to make new things, and this is I want to make a new thing skirt. We do have a few specifically planned outfits that we're doing, including a white sands picnic where we're all going to wear fluffy white beachy dresses, which I already have that one made, so this one's definitely going. We're also doing a fancy dinner one night, so we need evening gowns. Now, I actually already have an Edwardian evening gown made out of magnificent silk satin. This gown is super beautiful. It's only ever been worn one time, and that was to costume college years ago. So I really don't even have, very many pictures of it at all. It's semi-done, but it's gonna get an overlay, which I'll talk about a little bit later, so I have that. So that leaves me with this beautiful new skirt, but I do need to make a matching shirt with it. I have extra fabric to go with this. And then I have my pink skirt and jacket outfit, which will be really nice, especially as separates. And then I have 1, 2, 3 shirts, 4 if you count the one I don't love. So now that I know what I have, we can start thinking about what I need to make. Okay, first off the bat, I know I have 2 things I need to complete to finish what I already have. The first is going to be the overlay for the ball gown, which is going to be made out of the sequined beaded fabric that's sheer. This is going to be a total pain in the ass to sew because of all of the beading and sequins. It's just going to be terrible. But I do already have the pattern for the skirt itself because I'm making it based off of the gown, and I'm probably just going to drape the top. So it's going to be really labor intensive and time consuming, but it's not actually going to be all that hard. I also need to make the matching shirt waist for my blue skirt so I can complete that outfit. But shirt waists after you make a few are actually pretty simple to make, so that one's going to be pretty quick. As I'm going in, I'm actually going to go ahead and write in how long I think it's going to take me to make each of these pieces. I always try to give myself a ton of cushioning because I know that there is absolutely 0% that I will actually stick to the schedule and time will magically compress on me and disappear. And I want to set myself up for success, not failure. So I'm being very generous at the front end with giving myself a schedule to make these things. I'm going to give myself 2 weeks for the shirtwaist and a full month for the overlay of the ball gown. Now I seriously doubt it's going to take that much time, but again, I'm just being nice to future tailor. Now I can think about what seems fun to make that I don't already have. One thing I really, really want is an aesthetic reform dress. Now, these are really weird and cool dresses that you see come into fashion at the turn of the 20th century, and they're really unusual. I'm actually pretty obsessed with these right now, and I feel really inspired to make it. So I think that this is going to be my very first project that I make next in this whole PEI sewing schedule. This one's also gonna be really nice because it's a dress that you don't have to wear a corset with, which I know was sort of unheard of, but that was like part of this whole aesthetic movement, was sort of this freedom from corsetry. And one thing I've learned on these long trips is that I need a corset break in the middle of them. I can really only do maximum of about 3 days where I'm wearing one every day, and then I just need a break. In my regular life, I am just way too committed to yoga pants and knit dresses to be able to hang in there with the corset every day. So I like to sort of schedule it so that I have a break. So this will be the perfect opportunity to have something that still is a costume, but that doesn't have the restrictions of a corset. There isn't a lot of information about making these, nor have I found any sort of commercial pattern, so it's going to be some experimentation, and that means I'm definitely going to have to make a mock-up. I think I'll probably make a wearable mock-up out of this, out of like a linen fabric or something like that, so that it doubles as a dressing gown or a robe. I'm going to give myself a month to make both the mock-up and the real version. Something that I've realized in my costuming traveling is that I really like having some sort of robe or dressing gown or just historical loungewear in general. They have become some of the things that are my most favorite items to bring with me on trips. Being able to take off your dress and throw on a dressing gown is a really excellent way to sort of prolong the magic of costuming, especially when you need a break from wearing a corset. It's just so fun to kind of just lounge around in something that's super glamorous and also comfortable and still feel like you're enjoying the costuming. I'd really like to have 2 to 3 of them in different colors and styles, so I'm going to add 1 dressing gown and 1 robe to my list. Now the dressing gown is going to be sort of roughly, so I'm going to give myself 3 weeks for that one, and then 2 weeks for the robe, which is going to be more simple. If you're following along with the math, you will notice that I have already filled up 4 months of sewing, and suddenly 7 months does not seem that far away anymore, does it? In fact, I'm wishing now that I had started this 3 months ago. I'd like to make 1 more skirt and 1 more shirt just to add into my sort of mix and match that I have already with the pieces that are already in my wardrobe. They're pretty simple, so I'm going to give myself 2 weeks for each of those. And finally, I'd really like to have 1 more lightweight dress. We'll see what I have in my fabric stash and see if I can manage that, but that would just be a nice extra thing to have in. I'll build in a month for that in the schedule. Okay, finally, we cannot forget about accessories, which are a really important part to making your Edwardian look be finished. Right now I don't have a ton. I've got 2 belts and I have 2 summer hats, and I'd like to have at least 1 more hat and probably 2 more belts that are in lighter colors because the ones that I have right now are really dark, just to sort of add those into the costumes that I have. It would also be really nice to have a waistcoat or 2, which are a really fun accessory to sort of add on to an outfit. So we'll see if I can manage that as well. I'm just going to go ahead and write them in. Okay, now that I have a very long list of things that I want, it's time to go shopping, but in my own sewing stash, not actually shopping from what I already have. So let's head over to the fabric storage. I've been sewing for many years and I'm a big fabric buyer, so I have got a hell of a fabric stash. Over the last few years, I've made a real effort to shop from my stash and not buy new fabric that I don't need because I have so many excellent pieces. I'm getting to the point where there's no way I'm ever going to use this, so I've been really making a concerted effort to try and make stuff from the stash of fabric that I have. Now, most of my stash does tend to be silk and proper for the 18th century because that's been the majority of my costuming, but I think we have some things in here that will work for Edwardian. Now, there is one thing that I did buy specifically for this, and that is this piece of silk, which I bought specifically for the aesthetic dress. I know I need something for my wearable mock-up for my aesthetic dress, which I'd really like to be linen, so let's see what I have there. Don't have a ton of linen in my stash. It's never really been something that I've sewn with a lot, But I do have a good bit of cotton. And I also have a lot of lightweight wools, which also might work for that. Part of the problem is I also don't exactly know how much fabric it's going to take, so I need to get a pretty big piece and just keep my fingers crossed that it's the right amount. Just gonna see what I have in the way of linens and wools and just pull those out. Oh, some of these are really in here. Ooh, forgot about you. It's a very pretty linen. These are all really little pieces, so I also want to stick to sort of summery light colors. Oh, I do have a pretty piece of lightweight wool. It's a nice blue. Oh, my sequin fabric. That's up here. Whew. Here's the black fabric I'm going to use for my overlay on my pink, which is going to be really beautiful. And it has these sequins and beads on it that are just going to catch the light beautifully. This is the fabric for my aesthetic gown. It looks a little bit dull on camera, but it's a really beautiful, rich gold with nice big wide stripes. It's got a nice texture to it, so it's got enough body to give it some oomph, but it's not like a super stiff fabric, so I think this is going to be really gorgeous. All right, let's see what else we have. Boy, I'd really like to use this linen for my wearable mock-up. I don't know if I have enough. I think I only have 5 yards of this, so it may be enough, but this is just a beautiful, beautiful fabric, which I've had for years and years and have never found anything to do with it, so this would be great. So I'm going to put this aside as a hopefully so. If not, this will be my backup fabric. This is a cotton. It's got a lot of texture to it. It's a good weight. It's a little bit heavier than I would like, but it's pretty much the only thing I have. Again, this has been in my stash for a very, very, very long time, and it would be really nice to use this. So this will be my backup. So for my dressing gown, I have this really nice white sheer fabric. It's super simple, but I have 8 yards of it, which means I can make some nice ruffles. So that will be my dressing gown fabric. I don't know what I'm gonna do about the robe. I would really like something sort of heavy and rich, but I don't know what I have. So I think I'm gonna sort of set aside in my head what that's going to be. And I'll come back to that later. That might be something I need to buy for, but I have to think about it more. I have 5 yards of this really nice blue and yellow striped shirting cotton. 5 yards is a little bit skimpy to do a dress out of, but I think I might set this aside for that. The dress that I hope that I can get to. We'll see. This is really the only good fabric that I have for a skirt, but I already have both a blue skirt and if I make this blue dress, I think I'm gonna be a little overstretched on the blue. So I think I'm gonna put this back, and I think the other skirt may be something that I need to buy for. I'm gonna make a note of that. So for robe, I need to buy. For skirt, I need to buy. And then I have another shirtwaist. I would really like something for this that's not white or blue, because that's what I have already. It would be really nice to have like a pale yellow, which is something that I don't really have in my stash, and I'm obsessed with yellow costumes, and that would be really nice. So I also have this really awesome mustard linen. I only have 2 yards of it, so it's not enough to make a skirt, and I was thinking I could make a waistcoat out of it, but it doesn't really go that well with the lighter tones of my other stuff, so this will have to be sort of an autumnal outfit. It's too bad I'm not making these, because these actually look gorgeous together, so that'll be a future fall Edwardian outfit, I think. I just found something that was hiding. This is a fabric I've had in my stash for a long time. It's like a very pale yellow with a light green stripe. My only concern is that it's got stretch to it, which I don't think I've actually ever sewn with any fabric with stretch, so this might be a little bit tricky, but this would make a really lovely shirt. Wait, oh my god, it is so stretchy! It's not at all stretchy this way, so it's only one directional stretch. So I can use it, but I might have to be careful with it. But this might actually work really well for a shirtwaist, and it also goes really beautifully with some of my other pieces. So I think I have found, in fact, my shirtwaist material, and I'll add that to the pile. All right, this is looking pretty good. But boy, do I have a lot of blue. This is a lot of blue. I'll have to find some other color to sort of work in here with my accessories. All right, so we have the keep and make pile, and we have the later pile. That'll go back into the stash. But here's what we're working with for now. Okay, now that I have a good list of what I'm making and what I'm making it with, I need to start organizing my sewing list into what I'm going to do in what order. I want to front load my project list with the most important pieces because if there's anything I've learned about myself, it's that stuff is going to get dropped off at the end. So the things that are most important to me are going to get sewn first, and then the least important things are going to go towards the end of the list, just in case life happens and stuff starts getting scratched off. So I know most importantly is my aesthetic dress. So I'm going to put in the aesthetic dress and the mock-up as my first project. Then I'm going to put in my blue shirtwaist that matches my skirt. And then I'm going to put in the beaded overlay that goes over my dressing gown. I also like to switch out big versus small projects, which is why I'm putting the shirtwaist in between those two big ones, just to give myself a little bit of a break. Sometimes it's nice to have a quick palette cleanser. Actually, that's almost always nice, so I usually try to schedule all my sewing projects that way. I hate doing huge projects back to back. It just stresses me out way too much. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in the robe and the dressing gown, because even though those aren't technically like really big costumes I'm going to wear out, I know that they're costumes I'm going to have a lot of fun wearing and will make a big impact on my enjoyment of the trip. So those are both going to go in next, and I'm going to do those two back to back. I think I'll put in my new skirt next, and then the new dress, and then finally the new shirtwaist. The shirtwaist is my least important project because I already have 3 pretty nice shirts, and I also will have dresses, so I don't really need those. It'll be nice to have especially something in a color other than white, but not critical, so that's definitely going to go at the end of the list. I'm also going to mentally pepper in some of these accessory pieces like the belts and the hats, because those are so simple. They're something that I can make in a couple of days or a weekend. If I just need the serotonin of being able to check something off the list, then I'm going to do that then. I'm not going to add those to the list, but I know that they're in my head that they're going to be ones that I'm going to make throughout here when I feel like I need a break. Oh, one more thing. I have a stretch goal, which I haven't talked about yet, and that is an Edwardian era bathing costume. These things are so silly and doofy and hysterical, which are basically my favorite kinds of projects. And I genuinely do not think I will have anywhere near the amount of time to make this, but it would be super fun to have it in PEI and be able to go bathing in the ocean in our period bathing costume. So I'm going to add that to the list, knowing that there's very little likelihood that I'm actually going to make it, but it's a nice little like backup goal for me to have in case I finish all these other things. Finally, I'm going to compare this to the actual calendar and see what we're talking about time-wise for all of these pieces. So I'm just going to sort of match up what estimate I've given them with what the general dates are that are coming up, so I can see sort of what I'm getting myself into a little bit. Okay, my goal in my head is to have everything done by September 1st, because that means I'm not panic sewing a week before we leave for the trip. So that was what I had in my head when I actually sat down and plotted this all out. If I do everything on my list, I should be done by August 10th. If I start right away and stick to my schedule, I'm done by August 10th. And that includes me having about 2.5 weeks to do the bathing costume too. So if I am a good girl and I stick to my schedule, I can do everything, including my stretch goal. Listen guys, that's not gonna happen. It's so cute how enthusiastic I am and how I actually kind of think this is going to happen. I have never once in my entire sewing life actually finished my list, so I don't know why I will now, but hope springs eternal. I do best if I have a schedule, so at least I have something that I can kind of work with here. Now that I have my schedule, I'm going to stick it to my door where it is official. I have a metal door here, and I use these excellent little magnetic clippies. Now when I come in every morning, I can see that and realize what I need to work on, which is nice. All right, before I leave for my trip in September, I'll do a little follow-up video and check in with you guys and let you know how I did, but feel free to make a guess in the comments and predict how much of the stuff you think I'm going to get done. I'd be very curious to see. I'm also very curious for future Taylor to see what she's going to manage. Good luck, me. I hope this was helpful for seeing how I plan and organize my big costuming trips, and I also hope this video helps to keep me accountable, because now I've put it out there on the internet that I'm doing all these things, and that means that I need to actually do some of them. So I better get started. First up is that magnificent aesthetic dress, which I will get started on very quickly. All right, see you guys soon. Take care.